Okay, so here we go. This is a video showing you for your t-shirts how to go into Sketchbook Pro and appropriate in a couple different ways. So when you're in Sketchbook Pro, here's one of my examples here. I've got three different images here. I've got this kind of fireball here that I will... Is my pen not working here? Can somebody lend me one of their pens, please? Fireball that I can resize here. And then I've got over here, I've got this dragon that I can resize. And I have this idea that I'm going to take the Toronto logo and play around with it a bit instead of Toronto. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide these two layers and work with my Toronto, and I'll erase. And there we go. So I'm going to erase the... whoa, that's a bit too much erasing. I'm going to erase the baseball part. And I haven't put much thought to it here, so it's not really a great idea. It's just showing you an example of appropriation and what it might look like. So I'm using the Toronto Blue Jays kind of name, but I'm going to add, let's say, this guy in here. Whoops, what happened there? Wrong layer. So I got to switch layers. So I'm on this layer. Can I have a different pen? Maybe it's the table. Maybe it's the it could be the tablet.
The tablet table. That's a weird shape.
Yeah. So now here's my dragon. So it's the Toronto. I'm going to put the dragon in there instead, and then this flaming fireball. I have to tap that layer if I want to move it, and then I have to choose the transform tool, and so it's like shooting out this crazy fireball out of its mouth. So this is an example right here. What I've done is a quick example of appropriation. And notice I've completely copied from three different sources. And yet, this is a brand new idea. This dragon, where I took it from, it was probably used in a completely different way. The Toronto Blue Jays, as we know, is for baseball, but I put a dragon in there, so I've completely changed the idea. And then wherever this person maybe drew that, I've changed again the idea. So this would be acceptable for appropriation. You don't have to trace, because why should you have to trace Toronto and all these details? You've still created your new idea. Let's look at another example here. So here's the dog example, but I've already done the drawing, so let's see if I can get rid of those so I can show you that. There we go. So I uploaded a picture of a dog, and it was at 100% opacity. And if you want to actually take somebody else's object, but you want to draw into it, then what you would do is you would change the opacity so it's a little bit lighter, and then you would create a layer on top. So there's a layer here on top of that dog layer, and make sure that I'm blue. This layer is blue. That's the layer that I'm drawing into. If I accidentally draw on this layer, I won't be able to separate it. So here I'm going to draw on this layer. Now you can pinch and zoom in your finger. I'm not actually enlarging right now, transforming the shape. I'm actually just zooming. Okay, so I've got this dog here. I'm going to take a pen. I'm going to make it as thin as I can. So I don't want it thick. I want it nice and thin. And I can zoom in and I can make my own drawing. Now remember, you're doing a stencil. So you've got to think, whoa, that's a bit thick. Why is that so thick? Oh, I think... Okay, so I've got my little dog here. Let's see if this can work. I take a nice thin outline. Perfect. And remember, you're doing a stencil. So you want to think about drawing something maybe in stencil format. So stencil format is in kind of shapes. And so I'm thinking of like that. There's shapes, big, large shapes, the eyes. And you can zoom in even more to get details. And separating things into pieces is always really good for stencil format. Then each of those little things that I'm drawing is a separate shape that I could cut out. Remember, you have to cut everything out with an X-Acto knife, anything you do. So if it gets really, really detailed, you're not going to be able to cut it out. And be liberal with the changes you're making. See, there's this dark patch here. Well, I'm going to kind of just go like that and make that a separate dark shape there. So I'm kind of thinking of putting it into stencil format as I go with these different shapes. Maybe, whoops, maybe that's over there. I'm going to ignore that phone call or I'll pause recording. Okay, and so there's, oh, I think I accidentally switched layers. That's what happened here. No, here I am. Okay, the pen got lighter. Not sure why the pen just got lighter. Oh yeah, see now I'm in the dog layer. I'm in the wrong layer. I got to go back up to the layer that I was drawing in, which is over here. There we go. Okay, anyhow, there's my outline for the dog's head. And if I click now on this part, it highlights, there's my little dog head. And if I want, I can use the fill tool, and I can fill those areas black if I've chosen black. There we go. So I can fill and get an idea of what maybe the stenciled areas would look like. You don't want to fill the whole thing in because then it'll all be black. Whoops, just like I did there. But this gives me an idea of what those little black areas might look like. So I've made a little stencil there, and then I had a cat over here. Whoops, that was the different drawing. I have a cat over here, and I did the same thing to, this is they call the Sushi Cat, and I made him a little bit lighter. Make a layer on top, choose your thin pen, and again, you can go and do your own little drawing. Think about stencil format. So think about separate shapes that you could cut out that are not touching each other, and you make your own kind of version of this drawing. So this is the basic idea for how you could now, in a different way, incorporate. Remember, it's a minimum of 3 ideas from the internet. 3 ideas that you have to include. So now I'm going to hide that, and I'm going to go back to that layer, and I'm going to fill and see what it looks like when I fill. So it's kind of neat. And then I've got my dog, and I can resize that dog and make it bigger. And so I could come up with now, no, that's not working. I could come up with my own design with the 2 of these guys. Maybe they're talking to each other, or maybe this guy's eating that guy, or like whatever. They're friends. I could put like some words here. That's a different way to appropriate, where you're taking the images and you are then tracing on top. So 2 options. Find some images, trace on top, or the other idea where you take a couple different ideas and you put them together, or combine the 2 approaches. And that's how you proceed.